Now, the next tab in the operational level yellow tabs that we have here for data collection is the possible call frequencies, and we're going to talk about that one now in this video. A lot of people find this table a little bit confusing to fill out because it's something that perhaps doesn't get asked very often, but it's really quite straightforward. So let me give you a few examples. What we're trying to do here is understand what kind of annual call frequency possibilities are implementable in your situation for one team or any one of these teams to visit the customers that they are targeting. So let me try and explain it this way. I'm sitting here in the UK, and in the UK it's unusual for a customer to be seen more than, say, 6 times a year. But they could be seen once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year, anything up to about 6. So if I want to tell the promo planner that that's the situation for my market, I can do that. I can simply say, well, they can be seen once a year, they could be seen twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe up to 8 times a year, but it's very unlikely, maybe even impossible, that we would be able to see them any more than that. So that might be a possibility if I was here in the UK. Now, if I was in a market where detailing history or detailing procedures are a little higher, then I might want to do something different. Let's say I was in a country like Turkey, when I might be seeing customers 30, 40, 50 times a year. I might want to put in a different kind of set of alternatives. So I'll put those in here under the cardiovascular team. So I might be able to see some of my customers, well, probably not less than 6 times a year, but maybe 9 times a year, maybe 12, maybe 15, maybe 20, maybe 30, maybe even up to 40 times a year. Perhaps, as it's Turkey, you never know, could be even higher than that, maybe up to 50 times a year. So let's take another example. Let's say we were in a Scandinavian market. Well, it's very hard to see physicians in, or any kind of customers really, in the Scandinavian markets. You might not be able to see them more than 2 or 3 times a year, and even that might be difficult. So for a Scandinavian market, I might want to put in maybe just 1, 2, or 3, because that's the reality in my market. Now let's take one that's a little bit more complicated. Let's take a South American example. It's very common in South America that they operate on a system of 11 cycles a year, 11 monthly cycles a year, not 12 because they have 1 month holiday. So within any one of those months, a rep may have customers that within their territory they may visit once a month, twice a month, or 3 times a month. So what we are going to get if we add all that up are customers that we might be seeing 11 times a year, once per cycle, 22 times a year, twice per cycle, or 33 times per year, 3 times per cycle. Maybe if we stretch it, there might be some that we could see 4 times a cycle. And this is the way that they do their targeting. So it wouldn't make any sense in the South American market if we were to make a plan to see somebody 17 times a year, because that wouldn't be something that they could implement in the way that they work. So this is what we're trying to understand. Now, there's another way of showing you this, and that involves showing you the promo planner itself. So I'm going to move this over to here, and this is the planning board inside the promo planner 4. And if you look at this carefully, on this side here, I have increments of calls that I can pick up and deploy onto my planning board. So what are those increments? Well, in this case, they are 1 call, 3 call, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 20, and 30. And these are the options that I'm being given inside the planning tool to deploy onto the planning board. And these options, these numbers, come from exactly this table. Now, I'm going to take all of these away because I am essentially operating in kind of a European mode, let's say. So I'm going to set my possibilities as the ones that you've just seen. 1, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 20, and 30. There they are. And I've set that up for the GP team, but it might be appropriate to do that for all my teams in this market. And I can do that very easily. Well, I've overshot it a bit there. Let me do that again. I could do it like that. That's better. That's really what I'm trying to do. So that's what we're trying to understand with this table, is what are the implementable annual call frequencies that we can deploy in our market. And at the end of the day, what we're doing is defining these increments that we're going to see for Salesforce deployment on our planning board. And it's really as simple as that. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that if we have numbers here that are always too large, then we may not be able to deploy any Salesforce activity at all on some customer product combinations, because some of those customer product combinations may have such low values for us that if we started, say, at 5 calls here in possibility 1, it might not merit having 5 calls a year. So we wouldn't be able to deploy anything. So when we are stating these possible call frequency, it's good to think of some a little higher than you currently do and some a little lower than you currently do, in order that when you come to your actual planning, you have some possibilities either side. We won't be able to make your Salesforce any bigger if we can't perhaps deploy some more calls on a particular audience size. So we need to think about those kinds of things. So when we are defining our possible call frequencies, think about that and think about adding a little to the lower end and a little to the higher end. And that's it. That's the possible call frequencies.